Hello everyone, I'm Moonracer, and in this video I will be showcasing my mod, Lunar Fallout Overhaul for Fallout 4. This is a pretty comprehensive mod. It overhauls a considerable number of features in the game, so I won't be able to cover everything. The general goal was to make Fallout 4 feel like the game I expected it to be on release. So I made the game a lot more challenging, but still balanced. Balance was a key feature here, and roleplay was another key feature. I tried to keep everything lore friendly. The the game just feels very naturally like an actual game rather than a sandbox where everything is handed to you. It's not a playground. So yeah, so let's begin. Settlers are changed both aesthetically and functionally. In general, they have a more diverse set of clothing and weapons that they spawn in with. I also included a set of experienced settlers, which are added to the pool. They have better weapons and armor and a different combat AI to regular settlers. Settlers are also mortal in this, so they will die during defense if you don't arm them. And this makes settlement defense a little bit more interesting gameplay-wise. There are local leader perks. They've been changed so that having the perks upgrades your settlers' attack and defense. So if you really want to create a character that's devoted to making settlements, you can do that. Power Armor got a significant change in I created a soft lock where you can use Power Armor normal, like in vanilla, but to repair Power Armor parts, you require the Armorer perks. I'll just show this here. If I go in and try to repair this left arm, T repair is grayed out. It'll say I lack the requirements to repair this item, even though I have the resources needed to. This is a game engine issue that I can't find a workaround for, so there's no way to show the perk requirements in this menu that I've figured out a way to get around. So I will go into the perk tree and show you Armorer. So rank 2 of Armor allows you to repair any Raider power armor, and rank 3 allows you to repair any power armor in the game, and that unlocks at level 26. So it'll be a while before you can repair power armor. Until then, you are left with just using whatever you can salvage in the world. And I feel like that's a pretty good soft lock to restricting your power armor use early game. It's not too restrictive. Another just general gameplay change is the power armor suits that you find lying around in the world. The leveled lists that spawned what type have been changed so that even as you progress to later levels, earlier models like the T45 and T51 will still spawn in the world, and even late game, once XO1 is available, those will be pretty rare, and T45 and T51 will be the most common variants of power armor that you find. I've rebalanced a lot of the perks in Fallout. The overall goal was to reduce effectiveness of some of the uh, most powerful perks and then give utility to some of the perks that nobody ever used or were pretty useless. So I changed a lot of the perks. I won't go into detail with all of them. I'll just give you a general overview and show some of the more interesting changes. The basic weapon perks, such as Rifleman, Big Leagues, and Gunslinger. The Gunslinger and Rifleman both affect semi-auto and full-auto weapons, and each rank is stretched out over a longer period of time. So you can see the final rank of Rifleman doesn't unlock until level 70. And this was intentionally done to make sure that the player's damage output matches the health of scaling NPCs throughout the game. And Commando has been changed. It only does a slight damage increase for automatics, but if you're going to go full auto, it's worth getting, but it's more of an optional thing. Gun Nut has been renamed to Engineering because it's used in a lot of settlement building restrictions, which I will get into later. But overall, is pretty much the same. I've removed a lot of the perk effects that completely remove effects from the game. So, for example, chem dependent used to reduce and then remove chem addiction, and now it's the effect from chemist, which extended chem duration. And I did that also as because it's in endurance, it allows role playing a less than intelligent player that is into doing lots of chems, which makes sense. Chemist is now just for manufacturing chems, but each recipe makes 5 units of that chem, and the final rank allows you to make the chems which you couldn't make in the game before, such as Excel. As I mentioned when talking about settlers, you can give settlers more defense and then more attack damage. Also, workshop crafting benches no longer require local leader. So the armor workbench is unlocked when you take perk 1 of armor, and the weapons is unlocked with engineering rank 1. I locked all of the recipes for robot modifications for the robot workbench to robotics expert. I made sure that you can still build the base robot and anything related to the automatron quest line, and you can still collect robot parts from salvaged robots that you defeat to upgrade Ada or any robots that you make. Blitz was a pretty overpowered melee perk, and I changed it to be an effect outside of that where you take a chance to take no damage at all from attacks. You're just dodging attacks, essentially. Up to 20% chance of dodging any attacks. And there's some role play tweaks. So Rad Resistance is renamed Atom Blessing, and I added a ton of levels so you can have ridiculous radiation resistance, because that's within the lore of the game, and if you want to spend that many perks, go ahead. Adamantium Skeleton, now instead of completely reducing limb damage, you can only get up to 65%. Party Boy and Party Girl only reduces addiction by 50%, so you can never be fully immune. So you get the idea. There's choosing which perk as you level up is a little bit more balanced and interesting. Another interesting feature I added was Hacker. Each rank gives you a copy of the holotape from the hack books that you find in the world, which is just a duplicate, but you can get those before you find them in the world if you want to, just as an optional for people that aren't interested in exploring and finding every little nook and cranny hidden book in the world. So yeah, I've replaced the perk Lead Belly with Wasteland Gourmet, since it was already a food-related perk. Wasteland the Gourmet is essentially gates crafting food. There are a few recipes in the game that do not require the perk, but higher quality foods require higher levels of this perk. And I will go to the crafting workstations and give you an idea of what that means. I added a lot more recipes to the game. And so you can see I added jerkies, which are lightweight meat alternatives. And then rank 2 unlocks foods which have effects like energy resistance, health regen, damage resistance, carry weight, etc. And then rank 3 foods, they all add buffs to your special stats, such as strength, endurance, agility. And there's, I think, 2 foods per special stat. I have also removed food effects that remove addiction. So the only way to remove addiction in the game now is from a doctor or the Addictalt Chem, which is fairly rare in the game world. The chemistry station, all of the drugs, just like all of the drugs are require a rank of chemist or more, and you'll make 5 at a time. And as I said, you need rank 4 to make the higher level perks. Chems and their ingredients are fairly hard to come by. Grenades, also, you'll need Demolition Expert to make most of the grenades. You can make nuker grenades and nuka-mines if you have the perks, though. So you can make the crafting chemistry and food crafting stations without any perk requirements, but you need the perks to build most of the stuff. Armor and weapon modifications are pretty much the same. I'll get into weapon and armor mod changes in a second. Weapons have been rebalanced. Melee weapons do almost twice as much base damage, meaning they are much more viable outside of stealth. And enemies with melee weapons are much more of a risk, a hazard. I've made some specific changes to a few weapons. One I'll show here, the double barrel shotgun, which was not a very popular weapon in the base game. I've changed it so the pistol stock is, or short stock is now a pistol stock, and it counts as a pistol, and then the full stock makes it count as a rifle. So pistol focused players have a shotgun option. The submachine gun, which I do not have here, you can get it pretty early in game, but the ammo 45 caliber is pretty uncommon until mid game. So I changed the base ammo type to 38 caliber, meaning you can use it early game as a replacement to pipe guns. And then mid game, you can change the receivers to 45 caliber, and it essentially extends the usage of that weapon and makes it a little bit more interesting. Overall, ranged weapons have a slight damage increase, and there are a few minor tweaks, but those are probably the most drastic changes. Armor changes. Across the board, I tweaked some of the damage resistances to be more balanced against each other, and as they show up in the world, I changed ballistic weave so that it only works on full outfits. You can't put it on any under armor or helmets. That was pretty game breaking exploit, I felt. So yeah, there are only a few specific full outfits that don't have any armor ratings at their base level that you can put ballistic weave on and make them fully armored. The quest outfits that you can get, like Kelleg's armor or the Minutemen general outfit, all have are pre-armored and have legendary effects attached to them, which make them very good rewards. Also, in general, weapons and armor have been changed so that the levels at which they show up in the game are spread out more. In vanilla, you could get everything by level 30, and now some armors like combat armor and some weapons like the assault rifle won't show up until much later. And this further emphasizes the idea of stretching out game balance or game progression so that the game feels like it should throughout a longer period of time. Settlement building in Lunar Fallout is a little bit more balanced and fits in better with the rest of the game. I've made some changes to building settlements where any of the structures that have functions such as power, water, and defense have basic structures such as this inefficient generator that generates 1 power and doesn't have any perks, and then later generators have perks requirements, and of course I've taken some of the perks, so they're not showing up. but you need at least one rank of gun nut or engineer here to build a generator. And the outputs have been increased. Defensive structures, guard posts don't require any perks, but turrets require engineering and science. And as you can see, the defense rating of turrets has increased quite a bit, so that cuts down on your need for turret spam to build defenses for settlements. And water again, you've got your basic water pump, but anything else requires perks to build. But all the cosmetic stuff like beds and basic structures, it's all the same. No perks required to build. It's just the functional elements that benefit you and gate how large of a structure you can make for a settlement. Another change I made was to crops. So you can plant crops just like normal, but you can't actually harvest them yourself. You have to assign a settler to harvest crops, and then you only obtain whatever they dump into the workshop. This slows down the rate at which the player accumulates crops, and same for water, uh, and slows down that so that game progression works correctly and ingredients for crafting food come at a slower pace. I've also included some minor quality of life features to settlement building. The power conduits and pylon poles. Uh, in the game, they radiate power to a certain distance, and I've extended that distance so you can see here's where the power ends. I believe it's about twice what the vanilla range was, so in vanilla you could put about a light up this far before it would stop being powered by this generator here. I've also uh, increased the power line length, so you can see you can pull up power lines pretty far. So building settlements a little bit more easier as far as not having to spam power line connectors everywhere. Yeah, I'm going to showcase a few of the changes I made to NPCs in the game. So I'll start with the Minutemen. The level list for the Minutemen has been changed so they're a little bit more diverse. Low-level Minutemen are recruits, and they're essentially settlers who have been enlisted into the Minutemen. They're just like settler with maybe some better gear. And then as they get higher level, they start to wear more and more of the Minutemen outfits. Eventually, the highest level is Minutemen officers who they have the outfit of Preston Garvey and have very good gear. And I've also included a Minutemen specialists who are mid to upper tier Minutemen. Think Ronnie Shaw at the castle. They tend to have fully auto weapons, heavy weapons, and explosives. I've also changed raiders, so not only do they look more diverse, they no longer have as much combat armor late game. They have a wider selection of weapons, but generally lower to mid-tier gear. They're tougher though. They have a higher damage resistance. Another change I made was in vanilla Fallout, when you killed a raider, there was about a 50% chance of a stim pack being added to their inventory, which was a major element adding to players late game having hundreds of stim packs. It was uh, largely from fighting raiders so often. So I've reduced that. Uh, they occasionally have stim packs in their inventories as they spawn, but they can also use those. So, um, yes, the amount of stim packs you'll get from raiders is much, much lower. Combat AI has been tweaked considerably. Um, Overall, most NPCs will have a greater variety of combat tactics they'll take. They'll do flanking. Their AI sandboxing has changed, especially for settlers. You'll notice they have a wider range of how far they'll travel up and down and around the settlement. So yeah, I'm gonna turn AI on, and you can actually see what happens here.
What the fuck was that? What the? Huh? You're mine now, rookie.
So there are about 30 raiders and 10 Minutemen in Jamaica Plain, as well as the ghouls that spawn are in the area naturally. Now, Minutemen don't usually spawn in large numbers in the game, so they tend to be a little bit tougher. This also makes the Minutemen a lot more useful as far as if you follow the Minutemen faction quest line and use the flare gun, because you can spawn in these higher level NPCs to assist you in combat in the game. Alright. The ghouls seem very attracted to me. I've also made fail ghouls a lot more dangerous in that they do more limb damage. And appears that feral ghouls won this fight. They wiped out everyone. Oh, there are a couple of...
The Minutemen are gonna kill every last one of you! I had no choice.
Alright, well that was fun. Thanks for watching my video. Sorry I'm not a professional video maker. I hope you try out Lunar Fallout. I put a lot of work into it. I think the end results are very good. And yeah. Thank you for watching my video and putting up with my terrible video making skills as well as my lack of public speaking ability. Um, I hope you try Lunar Fallout Overhaul, and if you do, let me know what you think. I'll leave the link in the description, and that'll be the end of this video.